Welcome back. Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm Lisa Boldo, and our topic is families. I have joining me today Jean and Marsha Redd, President and Vice President of Marriage Mentoring Network. Welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Marriage, what a great topic.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right in. What are some of the challenges that families are confronting within marriage today?
Well, I think there are quite a few challenges that we look at. I mean, there's healthcare, there's economy, there's all sorts of things that are going on for families right now. But I think the one thing that we tend to overlook is the time management piece and how time management has been redefined with the global economy and the rapid acceleration of technology. And I think that we don't think about, how are we spending, how are we allocating that precious time with our family? And I think that's a big, big issue that families are confronted these days.
Yeah, I think that is a big issue. So how has the role of parenting been affected by social networking and social media technology?
Well, I think for starters, parents are still trying to grapple with keeping up with the rapid acceleration of knowledge. My little one, who you met not too long ago, is already on the computer, well-versed, 2 years old.
Wow,
So we're trying to grapple with that. But I think the social networking piece adds a completely different dimension in that the internet is not really what I would refer to as an electronic medium. Some people think it's an electronic medium, but it's really a relationship. And we don't think of it that way.
That's true.
If I were to, ask you to take your son to a penitentiary or to a state prison and spend a day, just have a good time, enjoy yourself, you'd say, no, absolutely not. But parents are doing that. They're letting their children stay in front of the computer for hours on end, and they're introducing themselves to all different types of influences that are impacting the quality and culture of the home.
It's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. Our parents,
And it can be good or bad.
Absolutely.
So you really have to keep a watch on and time management. That thing, you were just saying earlier. I think that's right. That's
that's a big thing because they don't have enough time to really monitor.
What role? I mean. What role, how important do you think it is for husband and wife to develop a strong family? I mean, what roles what role does the husband play? What role does the wife play in developing a strong family today?
That is just so huge. I think, parents take for granted the learning experience that their children are seeing among themselves. For example, it is very important that the children are seeing love and respect and kindness and compassion and patience and forgiveness. Very important that they are showing that to each other because the kids are watching that and they reflect what they're seeing in the home.
That's true. They're going to do what you do, not necessarily what you say.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, if I could elaborate.
Absolutely.
The parents are the DNA. They are the DNA.
Yeah.
When you look at mom and dad, I think every person that's watching this show now, including us, have had some issues that we've taken from our parents that we're living and working through and trying to work through, even our own relationships that we have now. And I think when we think of mom and dad, it's important to realize that when mom and dad is not husband and wife, it changes the entire scope of things because when mom and dad are just mom and dad and not husband and wife, we see the societal ills, we see a lot of the issues within the home accelerate in a negative way.
Right.
So I think it's very important that component be in place.
I remember before we had kids, Gene said to me, he said, we have to work on ourselves. We got to really work.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Really.
And it was such gospel, it was such
people
truth.
don't think about that today. They just kind of dive in and, hey, we'll wing it as we go. And probably not the best way to go about it. Do you think that marriages are stronger today than they were in years past? I mean, do you think they're better off today, or do you think they were better off years ago, marriage?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, and if I was going to answer, I'd say the verdict is still out in a way, because with the global financial crisis, I think in statistics have shown us that there hasn't been a huge uptick with regards to divorce. So I think that's a good thing, that we haven't seen a spike in divorces. However, marriage commitment does not always translate into marriage satisfaction. So if you have people staying together, like we've seen in various decades, my generation saw that the parents had just stayed together, and they stayed together. We just had to stay together.
Like
that
wasn't necessarily the love, the honor, the respect. There was fighting. There was this and that. How do you think that the economy, the global crisis, has affected marriage today? Do you think it's had a big impact?
Well, I think it has, but again, I think the biggest thing to look at is, in looking at the statistics, seeing that we haven't had an uptick in divorce rates.
Right.
I think that's a good indicator, but it doesn't show us how satisfied couples are. So we have to really go to the next level, and again, the verdict is still out on that, but I can say we know that couples in many situations are, in some situations, taking out the stress of financial hardship on one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think in that situation, in those type of situations, it does hurt.
Right.
But again, we haven't really seen any fundamental changes over the past 5 or 6 years in the area of divorce. I think that's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
But we're still hoping and praying that, I was taught that, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and probably you have that as well. So we're hoping that this particular season that couples are experiencing, we're hoping that that's something that galvanizes a relationship rather than tears it apart.
How do you think that couples can work through some of the communication barriers that present themselves within marriage? Yeah,
I believe that couples really need to provide a safe environment for each other to really talk about what's going on within themselves. I think, a lot of times when, you would share insight on, like, past history, couples tend to want to use it as a weapon and not really, take it in and use it to really know more about their spouse, more about helping their spouse to deal with whatever issues that's going on.
And that can really affect the family relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
So, for example, what should a couple do if they find themselves with conflicting parenting roles within the family?
First they should ask themselves, if their spouse is doing something that is totally different than their style, ask themselves, is it harming the children?
Right.
Instead of being judgmental and condemning, ask, is it harmful? And if it is, then sit down and talk in a safe way.
Right, and maybe ask, how is this affecting our family?
Right.
What is the what are we trying to do here? What's the long-term, outcome that we're trying to achieve? Yeah. What role do you think that in-laws should play within the marriage relationship? Does that will affect your family?
I have great in-laws.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you. Thank you. And I have great in-laws as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We keep it safe on that front.
That's wonderful.
But I would say, if we use the analogy of football, the in-law, the role of the in-law would probably be best described as the fan. The fan
That's good.
Stays in the background. They cheer, they rah-rah. The fan doesn't come on the field.
No.
We don't want the fan on the field. We don't want the field calling plays. They're not going to come out and call plays.
Right.
So I would say fan, encourage her, support her, great job, and, and be there for the team.
Yeah. And they should be treasured. Yeah. They should be treasured. Yeah. I think if your spouse is prioritizing his mom and dad over you, I think a good thing for you to do is to join him and love them as well.
Oh, that's good.
So as you are loving them as well, he realizes, or she realizes, wow, this is such a wonderful...
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. It's not a competition.
And it'll come right back to you.
Yeah, and it will make the family bond stronger.
Right.
So what is the greatest lesson that you've learned in marriage?
You go first.
Probably the greatest lesson that I've learned is that I thought when I first got married that it was about getting to know someone. I'm getting to know her. And,
yes.
But marriage is really about you getting to know you. One of the things that we teach is that the greatest struggle within marriage is that you have to confront your true you.
That's
not
true.
the one we project, not the one we go out and say hi to our friends, the real you.
Because he's coming out eventually.
He's coming out.
Absolutely.
And you know, singleness, you can guise it, but in marriage, you're forced to confront you.
Wow.
So I think for me is that this journey is about me and my growth and my development in life rather than my wife's development.
Wow.
First year, I thought it was about her development. You know, how she's developing. We got to make sure she's developing well, you know. But as time went on, I learned that, you know what, this is about me and my growth. So.
That's good.
Well, what I learned...
Watch it.
No, very different, very different. It was after the birth of her first child, or first daughter, I felt such a love for my daughter. And it was an unconditional love. It was so deep. And it awakened me to realize that I wasn't giving that deep, unconditional love to Gene.
Wow.
And that totally changed my perspective on what am I giving.
Yeah.
Because he should really get the best of me.
Wow.
That's beautiful. And the last question I want to ask is, what would you say to someone if they think that maybe they made a mistake in their marriage? That getting married was a mistake.
Well, I think the first thing you want to do is establish direction. If you and I were driving in a car somewhere together and we're going for a long trip and I make a turn, the first thing I'm going to want to do, well, I'm a man, maybe not, but you're going to want to do is to find out where are we? Let's get our direction. Let's get our bearings. You know, we have GPSs these days that help us, but we want to get our bearings.
Right.
And I think that once we do that, I think it gives us the position to go forward. I think oftentimes we think because I'm here, we should just get out the car. You know, forget it. You know, we're lost. Let's get out of the car. Forget it. I'm going to leave the car here. I'm going to leave it running, and I want to quit. And that's not how life works. I mean, you've got to say, okay, where are we? You've got to try to find a way and navigate back.
Yes.
So I think in the world of marriage, I think we do that. You know, we marry, and then we get lost, and we go, okay, I'm going. Bye. I'm leaving. I'm leaving the car. And I think direction is probably the biggest thing I would say. Find out where you're at and, more importantly, where you need to be.
That is really good advice. So how can our viewers find out more about you two? Great. Marriage Mentoring Network.
Marriage Mentoring Network.
Well, we actually meet every month. We have seminars. We have training sessions once a month. This year we are in the JFK International Hotel. But we also do great things on our website.
Wonderful.
We also have a lot of other things that people can tap into.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Marsha.
Thank you.
And if you have enjoyed the show today, please write any questions or comments to TBN, Jan and Paul Crouch, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711. Thanks for watching Joy in Our Town.